But Mario Kart 8 Deluxe already. I don't want to hear it. To nip this in the bud, yes, I know Mario Kart 8 Deluxe exists on Switch. No, that doesn't mean that there won't be another Mario Kart game specifically for Switch. Nintendo has already said as much, so get that out of your head. In this video, I'm going to talk about all of the things I think Nintendo needs to do with Mario Kart 9, or whatever they decide to call it, on Nintendo Switch. But first, let's get into the how and why do I think Mario Kart 9 will happen in the first place. Well, for starters, Nintendo has stated on several occasions that their major franchises will all see the light of day on Switch. If you honestly think a brand new Mario Kart that takes advantage of Switch's hardware and unique features isn't included in that statement, you're crazy. Mario Kart has been amongst the top sellers of Nintendo games for each console release since the series began on SNES back in August of 1992. Hell, it even managed to sell 8 million units on Wii U, no less. That's around what Uncharted 4 sold on a console with nearly 7 times the users. If Nintendo thinks they have a good enough reason to double dip with that franchise, you can bet they will. In addition to that, we got the teaser announcement of their next mobile initiative called Mario Kart Tour. Now, this is interesting on a few levels, the first of which being that Nintendo specifically called it an app. I could be reading into this too far, but the fact that they haven't specifically called it a mobile game gives me the impression that it could be more of a companion app, something to track stats or help facilitate features in a future game. I'll get into those specific features in the next section of this video, so bear with me. Even if we go under the assumption that the mobile app is a game, Nintendo has yet to release an app and tie it to a game that has already been released. They have always released the app sometime before the mainline game is released, sometimes even before it's even announced, to then later run promotions of said console game in the app when it finally does release. Now, I guess they could theoretically do what they've done with Pokken Tournament on Switch and just add to the base game with DLC, but something tells me Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to them is feature complete and they'd prefer to move on to something new. That's not to say the new thing is imminent. After all, the Mario Kart mobile app isn't due out until their fiscal year in 2019. That's another reason I doubt they'd circle back to Mario Kart 8. 2 years is a long gap between a game's release and more DLC content. If they plan to use Mario Kart Tour for promotion of Mario Kart 8 or 9, like they clearly do, chances are it'll be for a new game, i.e. Mario Kart 9. But what could they even do with a new game, I'm sure you're asking? Well, dear subscriber, or dear person that should totally subscribe, or person that I don't like very much because they refuse to subscribe, if the title isn't any indication, I plan to answer that, or at least speculate with some fun ideas based on past Mario Kart entries and what they've lacked compared to other kart racers of their time. This is all bearing in mind that clearly Mario Kart has reigned supreme for the bulk of its life, and it has done so for a reason. But I also think it's important to bear in mind that that doesn't necessarily mean that the competition didn't have worthwhile ideas. They just struggled to nail down the essentials as well as Mario Kart did, in my opinion at least, and obviously many others as well. With that being said, first and foremost, I think Mario Kart 9 should double down on single player content. The current games tend to leave this on the wayside, leaving it relegated to pretty much being exclusively made up by Grand Prix and time trials. Of course, there's different difficulty levels and mirror matches, as well as the option to play a lot of this content with friends, which at the end of the day is the main point of Mario Kart, but I'd argue including a campaign of sorts with light story elements and some exploration akin to Crash Team Racing or even Diddy Kong Racing could make Mario Kart 9 a game worth double dipping on. Also, I think having a fair amount of single player content in this way is important for Switch games because sure, you can play with friends on the go, but who's to say you can always make that happen? What if you love Mario Kart, don't have anyone to play with on a long plane ride, and have grown bored of the Grand Prix? A decently sized campaign, I feel, could help with that, and I think Mario Kart Tour is a good hint at this implementation, to be honest. A name like Mario Kart Adventure, or if we're to give some Mario Kart 64 type love, Mario Kart Odyssey for the Switch, game title would be a similar naming convention that is really emphasizing the increased sense of exploration throughout the game and maybe through the hub worlds. Sure, it would be a big change for the series, but I'd argue it needs to really stand out given that we have never been in this situation before. Nintendo wants Switch to have a long life, and living that long life, that will be around 10 years mind you, without a new Mario Kart would be ridiculous. At the same time, having two Mario Karts that do the same thing with maybe some new visual flourishes and a new mechanic or two, I don't think would be enough to set the game apart. We need more modes or a big change in the current modes to justify the second game. In Crash Team Racing, the story goes that Earth is visited by the main franchise antagonist, Nitrous Oxide, who claims to be the fastest racer in the galaxy. He challenges Earth to a game called Survival of the Fastest. He threatens that if our planet's best driver doesn't best him in a race, he will turn Earth into a concrete parking lot and enslave the Earthlings. Mario has all of the potential in the world to have a similarly goofy plot. They could even poke fun at how Bowser and other villains are always invited to take part despite their villain ways. Throughout this story, we could be tasked with collecting power stars to gain access to more of the world as you progress, sprinkle driving challenges throughout the world to help players improve on their driving skills, custom time trials in the hub world, you know, stuff like that. Obviously, it doesn't have to be serious. The world doesn't need to be Breath of the Wild big. It doesn't need to be an Oscar-nominated plot, but introducing a story of some sort with a world to explore, I feel will increase the charm of the series overall. This doesn't mean I think online play should have any less of a focus or that there's no other improvements I want. Quite the opposite. I want just as many improvements in that area. First and foremost, again, if the thumbnail wasn't a big enough indication, I want the double dash mechanic back. It doesn't need to be the default racing type again. It can be a mode if they so choose, but I think including that in the game with an option to play an online 24-player multiplayer double dash style match would be incredible and a good prestige piece for Switch Online when they finally flesh that out and improve it. More items, maps, vehicles, a customization system for vehicles even, unless they do it for F-Zero on Switch. If they do that, leave all customization of that. If you don't like it, fight me. Finally, to tie it in with the Mario Kart Tour app, I think that, like I said, you should be able to track your stats. Maybe you should be able to customize your racer, your kart. If they so choose, maybe allow us to use our Miis and work on them in the app. Who knows? I think there's plenty of potential to do a lot with the app in tandem with the game. Of course, the game could just end up being a mobile version of what Mario Kart is, in which case it probably won't have a lot to do with Mario Kart 9, but who knows? We'll figure out whenever they announce it. All in all, I think Mario Kart 9 has a lot of potential on Switch. So much in fact that we'd love to cover it more. If you'd want to see that, let us know what aspect of it, or any other potential Switch games for that matter, you'd want us to dive into. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? Is Mario Kart fine just making small iterations to the formula, or would you welcome changes like the ones I mentioned? Let me know that in the comments as well. Subscribe and ring that bell for more videos like this every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. New podcast every Saturday at the same time. Don't forget to watch last week's video, especially if you're a Switch owner that likes free stuff. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.